Welcome to AI Marketing, a podcast for sales and marketing professionals that want to increase their sales, leads, and conversions through the use of artificial intelligence solutions. And now, here's your host, Mark Fidelman.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to AI Marketing. And joining us today for a second time, we had a little snafu the first time, but John, I promise you this time it's going to work. It's Jon Levesque, and we are going to cut through the chase here and talk. God, we had such a brilliant conversation last time. But we're going to try and reenact that as best we can, maybe add in some new things, because I've thrown them some things that we didn't talk about last time. So, John, why don't you briefly introduce yourself, and then we'll jump right in.
Awesome, Mark. Thanks for having me. I'm totally bummed. I think we had such a great conversation, but I think we could do better. We're more prepared this time. So yeah, I'm Jon Levesque. I'm a former Microsoft and DocuSign community leader. Very recently kicked off starting my own startup. Went full time into that. Have a CTO who's full time into that. It's called Seeq. It's all about travel and discovery. I live in Seattle. I got a few kids and a wife, super into the outdoors and nature and seeing new things. Novelty is really my addiction in life.
Okay, excellent. Well, what's very novel is what we're going to talk about today. And let's start with what you differentiate between the former, what you're saying, the former directory era. You're saying that's dead, and then the centralized discovery is obsolete, but the creator economy is real. Why don't you walk us through your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I think, Mark, that when I say the directory era is dead and dying, and I think that what I mean is, we've organized information the same way for a very long time. And if you think about it, we used to do phone books and library cards, right? And these were, the little Dewey Decimal System, and this was how we organized information in these directories. And then when we got online, we kind of kept the same thing where we created rows and tables and organized similarly. And even now, when we think of how we experience so much of the web, Google Local, Yelp, like these things trying to figure out how to experience the world, it's just another index with an algorithm slapped on top. And so I really truly believe that model is dying, and we're seeing the evidence of it all around us. I think that the creator economy and the direct to consumer model and the direct user to user model, even more importantly, is growing at an exponential rate. Like we look at OnlyFans as a huge one, Patreon, Fansly, now Substack, right? People are selling their knowledge, their expertise in their sexuality, right, in all kinds of different ways. And I think that there's an opportunity for that to really start to infect a lot more other areas of business, because I think for two major reasons. One, people trust people, right? And when we think about consumer decision making, my arena, again, travel and experience, most travel and experience decisions end on social media. 72%, recent study said 72% of all travel and experience decisions end on social media, which just
And
proves
or
that.
begin, because all my entire trip to Italy and France was based on people posting cool things, restaurants to go to, places to go, all on social media. I kid you not, John. I'd say 80% of it was done. I found places via social media, and that inspired me to go to those places.
Totally, right? I did the same. I was in Italy this summer, and like I saw Florence and I wanted to eat all the sandwiches. So I sat at night and I found all the sandwich videos and took my daughter around and we ate, 100 sandwiches in Florence, Italy. But it just reinforces the point, right? That these directories full of fake reviews, full of outdated information that are really to the benefit of these massive monolith, huge corporations. I just think that everyone's tired of that. And I think that we're moving on. And so I think, when you tie those two things together, I do believe the directory era is dead. And I do believe that the creator economy is real this time. I know, it gets said every 18 months, but I think we're at the moment where there's enough proof to say we're really there.
But the credit economy right, can be manipulated as well. If somebody's paying these creators or influencers or thought leaders to create content, like, if I could reinvent myself, I would go back and become a travel influencer, because these people get free trips, they get money, they get to try out all these new places before the rest of us do, and they're paid to do it. I would love to do that. But does the fact that they're being paid influence their opinion of it?
You know what I think the cool part about that is I think that works out in authenticity, right? If somebody goes and takes a trip that a creator did and has a terrible experience, we've seen a lot of the Instagram versus reality cuts, right? Where
Mm.
creators are getting tossed under the bus. And so I think that there's a different level of authenticity to social and to that like creator interaction layer that the algorithm is not incentivized exactly in the same way to feed you 60 sponsored posts. And so I think, absolutely it's open to manipulation. People can take a brand deal from a shitty hotel chain and tell you should go there. But I think that those things will tend to kind of weigh themselves out in practice.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, the authenticity for me was they weren't being paid. At least they said they weren't being paid. And I found we probably found the same sandwich shop in Florence. Now they're opening up one in L.A. Same company,
Yeah,
and it was
yeah.
freaking amazing. The line was super long, and
Was it the
anything.
one with 3 in one street, 3 sandwich shops on that same one street?
Yeah, it was like the same,
Yeah,
and I'm like, "Why is one have the longer line than the others? Aren't they all the same?" And it turns out they're not, and I was
yeah.
like, "How do people figure this whole thing out?" So I stood in the longest line, because I'm a sucker for psychology,
I
and the
love that.
sandwiches were damn good, but it was 95 degrees, and it was on the sunny side of the road, which sucked big time, but
Mm.
I stood out, I did it. I still have to put that review out. I did a review on it. Anyway, let's get to more or less what the show is about, which is AI. And you talk about AI paradox. So
Yes.
you're saying it's going to accelerate everything while threatening to commoditize it. And why don't you explain what you mean by that?
So I think that there's the AI paradox in my mind is the huge amount of winners and huge amount of losers. Like when we think about what AI will do, I think there are like people like you and me who are very hot on it and trying to leverage it, and I think that very quickly the people who are not doing that are going to be left behind, overtaken by the wave. The doers, the haves will quickly get ahead of the have-nots. And I think we're seeing evidence of it now already, where a lot of companies are replacing headcount with AI, right? A lot of low impact labor is just getting cut in favor of agents. And so I think on the, there's a lot of people who will be losers, and very on the other side, very drastically, I think that there is an opportunity right now where if you have some imagination, if you've always had an idea and you have a little bit of willpower to go with it, anything is possible. The tools that are out right now are just incredible. And so I think when I say that it's going to accelerate everything, for myself, even, I feel like I'm 100x the human being in knowledge and ability and tools than I was last year. But also, I think AI will commoditize, right? Like it will become the next Microsoft Excel, where it's so vital, right? Every business in the world runs on Excel. But just like nobody's passionate about it. It's just there. It's just part of the tool set, right? And so I think I'm making a bet on the long tail that human experience will continue to be the actual value, not the AI tool set itself, but what can we empower with it? And I think that real value will be human experience.
Yeah, see, I mean, I know we disagree on this. I see AGI in the next couple of years, even though everyone's predicting 6 months. I don't see that happening. And then eventually ASI, AGI will get us to ASI pretty fast. And so I think the human experience will be so dominated by the AI experience that we're going to lose a lot of it and go into this trough of disillusionment where AI does everything better than us, and we're having to figure out what our place is in the world. Because I think humanness gets replaced by some augmented version of it, and AI has taken all of the jobs that humans do now, but on the plus side, we get even better jobs. We control armies of robots. And after that trough of disillusionment, we figured out, okay, this is the new human experience, but by the way, with superpowers. So that's how I see it rolling out. And I know you don't share that vision, but I just see that trajectory happening. And I don't have a crystal ball, John, at all. But everything that I'm seeing and all the pundits and what they're saying and all these new things that are coming out on a daily basis, it's impossible for me to keep up with. That's what it looks like to me, including your solution, by the way.
I think that there is definitely a possibility for that, but I think that comes back to the whole paradox, and I feel like what you describe is somewhat of a zero sum game where there are clear winners and clear losers to like even a more extreme degree, where those who have money and can afford the higher cost of AI, right? Because let's be real, we're experiencing it at its lowest cost and its lowest abilities right now, right? It's subsidized, and we're experiencing it in its birth, and our training is helping it grow. Eventually, it will be much more expensive and much more capable. And so the again, I believe this disparity between those who have and have not will again like even be further stretched, right? Because those who can't afford it now will not be able to afford it later. Those who can't afford a robot now will definitely not be able to afford one later. And so I think that this utopia that you talk about, where there's this interplay of humans and robots, like I think that that is possible if we slay the dragons of our society. If we don't allow for Elon Musk's and Mark Zuckerberg's, if we make rules to say we tax the billionaires, and we create a proper system that gives to the lowest universal basic income, all the bullshit, like probably stuff we don't have to get into here, but I think that if we go that direction you're talking about, there's such a massive shift in society that those who have to transfer to those who do not, or this paradox really becomes really, really ugly really fast.
See, I see AI as leveling the playing field. Nobody's got more knowledge than an AGI enabled robot or an ASI enabled entity, whatever the hell that ends up being. And so that levels the playing field. And I heard the same argument, John, about iPhones. Oh, well, there'll be the haves and the have nots. Now it doesn't matter what your income level is, everyone seems to have an iPhone or a Google phone. And so in the power of their hands, they have all the same technology that a billionaire does. A billionaire doesn't have a better iPhone. To my knowledge, there's not a different iPhone for billionaires than there is for every one of the rest of us. I've hung around billionaires; they have the same iPhone. So I don't know if they'll have better access to AI, except if they're the ones like Elon Musk creating it. And if they're creating it, then yeah, or the Defense Department, who is probably demanding that they get different versions of it that are uncensored, then yeah, I would say yes. My biggest fear is the government abuses this, and they will. We know they will, and either shuts it down for the rest of us so that we can't use it, and then they have a massive advantage over the rest of us, or the the companies themselves are using it and putting everyone else at a big disadvantage. So I think that scenario is very likely. So I would agree with you there.
That one's a very interesting one. Like OpenAI creating their second layer, right? I think that there's a huge interesting play where the reality is that these companies have to begin to create new value, and realistically to be able to do that, they're going to just start sucking up other industries and plugging them into their system. And so I think that that makes it ever more important, Mark, for people like me who believe AI is absolutely here to stay. It's not going away, but I want to build things hopefully that enhance humanity and not replace it, right? And that's my hope. I think there's going
Well,
to be a lot
why
of
wouldn't
people.
it? Why wouldn't it replace it though? I mean, I'm trying to be realistic and not. I'm with you. I hope humanity wins out, but how can let's just say that ASI happens. And most people in AI think it's going to happen, where it's creating its own knowledge on the fly, and it can conduct a million experiments in a minute to create new knowledge. How would we not be usurped by a super intelligent being, not just a little bit, but 1,000x more intelligent than us? How would we be the dominant human experience at that point?
Uh, it's a great question, and I don't know if I mean dominant. I think that there will definitely probably come a time of power struggle. I think I'm more speaking to the meantime where,
Next 5 years.
yeah, next 5, 10 years, like, before we get to AI plus robotics plus full VR, like I think there's a lot of time in between, and I think the long tail answer, Mark, I think is um, people abstaining. Like there's going to be a whole group, I think, that probably like rejects a lot of the application. Um, you
But
see it
John, how can
already.
they reject it? How if they reject it, they're going to be at such a huge disadvantage. We even
Yeah,
talked about
yeah.
neural implants. Once that starts happening, and then you've got people with a fourth grade education that will just dominate you and I without neural implants. How do we compete? How can we abstain from that type of environment without getting significantly damaged, either financially or our lifestyle? How would that even work?
I think that there's probably I mean, I guess I like to believe, like for myself, even I could speak for myself, and I bet there's probably other people like me.
Of course,
I
sir.
s- I believe that the value is in the transfer of experience, right? Like when I think of like, and that's I think why I'm trying to build what I'm building again, right? I think that like when I hear about a restaurant, I love to hear about who the owner is or what it took for them to make it, what the stories of their menu are about. I think that there's this value that, an AI can write a lot of words, a whole ton of words, but can it create real meaning? And we could probably spend some time arguing on that. And is real meaning, does it actually matter if it can trick a human into resonating with it? But I think that there is something where there are a whole group of people who will attempt to maintain that human tribal storytelling knowledge pass on like way of living. Now it's probably, to your point, futile and not long lived, but I don't know, I guess I'm a romantic to it maybe, and I like to think
I
that
am too.
people would fight for it.
I am too. No, they're going to fight for it. We already see this with traditional values versus progressive ideas, right? But I mean, do you know? You remember that Drake song that came out, and we later learned it was AI generated.
Yeah,
Now
yeah.
that resonated with a lot of people, including myself. I haven't heard it since, but that was a damn good song. Now Drake
Well,
shut down,
yeah.
but that was created by AI, and so it did resonate with people. It did move people. It did cause an emotional reaction, and that was a
Yep,
couple years ago.
yep.
So
Mark,
I,
I was telling my cousin, I have a cousin who's into music, and he's a very talented musician. And funny, we were just talking about this last night. I was like, Sean, that's his name. You have to get into AI music. And I showed him some tools and I showed him some of the outputs. And his mind was blown. And I think, Mark, why I showed this to him and put this impression on him is, as someone who's on this cutting edge, I believe that next year, 2026, we'll probably see an AI musician hit the charts, if not top the charts. Like Drake used it to augment himself. I think we're going to see a more extreme version, a completely fake artist with a
totally
completely generated song hitting the charts.
Totally agree. I mean, you're already seeing AI influencers in social media that people are following. Absolutely. Why not an artist?
Yep.
So,
Yep.
so what else are they going to be able to do? That's my point. Is like, especially when you get into AGI, ASI, what else are they going to emulate to elevate the human experience beyond human experience and into something else that we can't even fathom? There's no words for. I think that's going to happen. But again, I don't have a crystal ball.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be interesting. So um God, we could go on forever. But we got to wrap things up. Tell us about your company, what it does, and then I'll remind everybody that my co-author and I have a book coming out called Asian Ties. But go ahead, John.
Amazing. Thanks, Mark. Yeah, my company is called Seeq, and you can find us at seek.ing, seeq.ing. And the tool is very simple. If you are a travel creator or a local expert and you make content, videos, carousels, you can load them into our AI that then goes ahead and spits out a shoppable itinerary where we load up that whole itinerary full of affiliate links. So essentially, the AI watches your video, marks down the hotel you went to, the restaurants you visited, the attractions you went to. It then inserts affiliate links so other people can book them, and you get 60 to 70% of that revenue. We take a small percent for running the platform. And so it gives travel creators a whole new way to monetize that they've never really had before. And so it allows them to keep doing what they're doing, which is make content. And we give them a set of tools to help them make money while they sleep.
I got to do this. I do all sorts of review videos. I did a lot of Italian videos. I have to do this from now on, just for fun, just to keep my skill set up. So, what a great tool! What a fantastic solution, especially if you want to make a little money for traveling, and you're not being paid by a hotel or airline. Talk about what they do.
Yeah. Totally.
Just to wrap things up, my co-author Jazz Dillon and I are writing a book called Agentized. We're going to talk a lot about what John and I talked about. We're going to make some serious predictions based on talking to the industry insiders from Google, Facebook, OpenAI, Grok. The world's going to change dramatically. I don't want to sound the alarm, but you just listen to what's going on out there. Listen to what Eric Schmidt, he used to be CEO of Google, saying. Listen to all these people. They're not wrong. They might be wrong in the time frame, but we have aggregated all that information either by talking to them directly or looking at what they've said, and we're going to make our own predictions based on the crowd. You know, the predictions from the crowd are usually more accurate than one individual. So this is how to position yourself to be successful in the future, what we think is going to happen in the next 3 to 5 years. And we want to see you dominate. There's going to be more millionaires created from using AI than any other time in history. And we want you to participate in it. We don't want you to be left behind, like John was talking about. So with that, John, thank you so much for being on the show. I mean, we have such great conversations. I got to have you back in 90 days. So promise me you'll come back.
Mark, I would love to come back, and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.